February 1, 2024, News Report 1. The Legislative Yuan of Taiwan held the election for the Speaker of the Legislative Yuan on February 1. Han Kuo-yu, a Kuomintang, KMT, legislator at large, was successfully elected as the Speaker after 2 rounds of voting. In the first round, Han Kuo-yu received 54 votes, while his opponent, Yu Shai-kun, got 51 votes. Additionally, 7 votes were cast for Huang Shanshan, and 3 votes were invalid. As none of the candidates received more than half of the votes, 57 votes, a second round of voting was initiated. In the second round, the People First Party's 8 votes did not participate, and Han Kuo-yu obtained 54 votes, while Yu Shai-kun got 51 votes. Since Han Kuo-yu's votes exceeded half, he was successfully elected as the Speaker of the Legislative Yuan. Following the announcement of the election results, Yu Shai-kun resigned from his legislative position, and Wang Zhengxiu was appointed to fill the vacancy. After his election, Han Kuo-yu stated that he would abide by the Constitution of the Republic of China, fulfill the duties of the Legislative Yuan Speaker, and maintain neutrality while presiding over meetings. He reassured the incoming president Lai Ching-te not to worry excessively. According to the protocol, the Speaker of the Legislative Yuan must present the national seal of the Republic of China to the president during the presidential inauguration ceremony. The election results indicate that the People First Party's 8 seats played a crucial role, assisting Han Kuo-yu's election by abstaining from voting. Earlier predictions suggested that the People First Party might collaborate with the Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, but they chose to support the Kuomintang. This decision was influenced by Ko Wen-je's dealings with the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, as the benefits offered by the CCP were more appealing than those by the DPP. News Report 2. European Council President Michel announced on Twitter that the European Union reached an agreement at a special summit held in Belgium to provide Ukraine with a total of €500 billion in aid. This assistance will be used to support Ukraine's basic fiscal expenditures over the next 4 years. Ukraine is expected to receive €4.5 billion in aid from the EU in March for the first time. President Zelensky of Ukraine stated that the EU's assistance would strengthen Ukraine's long-term fiscal stability and contribute to economic and financial stability. The agreement avoids internal chaos and division within the EU. It is worth noting that in December of the previous year, Hungarian Prime Minister Orbán voted against, blocking Ukraine's aid plan and forcing EU leaders to convene a special summit. The conclusion of this agreement indicates that Orbán has compromised and is no longer in opposition to the entire EU. German Chancellor Scholz stated during the summit that EU member states urgently need to discuss expanding military aid to Ukraine. The EU had previously committed to delivering 1 million missiles to Ukraine in early this year but has so far only provided 300,000 missiles. Furthermore, French President Macron, in a joint press conference with the Swedish Prime Minister, emphasized that Europe must make correct and bold decisions to support Ukraine and prevent Russia from achieving victory in the war. Macron's strong statement reflects his deep concern about the war in Ukraine and his commitment to continue supporting the country. It also indicates that, in the face of potential security threats to Europe, France will take proactive action, emphasizing the complexity of Europe's relations with Russia and geopolitics. News Report 3. According to Reuters, the Indian Navy has deployed 12 warships in the eastern Red Sea to address security concerns in the region. Although India has not joined the United States-led Red Sea Task Force, it has dispatched warships for precautionary measures. The Indian Navy reported 17 incidents of interceptions, attempted interceptions, and suspicious tracking events in the Red Sea since December 2023. Investigations were conducted on over 250 ships, with boarding checks carried out on more than 40 vessels. Indian Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar stated on January 30 that India's growing capabilities could provide assistance in challenging situations. However, some views suggest that India's actions may be more for publicity and garnering attention than genuinely addressing the crisis in the Red Sea. The deployment of Indian warships is not aimed at countering piracy but may be an attempt to maintain a certain presence in the region amid complex geopolitical dynamics. Simultaneously, the U.S. Central Command announced on January 31 that it had successfully shot down 10 drones belonging to Houthi militants and 3 Iranian drones. In response, the Houthi militants claimed to have launched a cruise missile at the U.S. destroyer USS Gravely. The missile was intercepted by the USS Gravely 1 kilometer away. The overall situation in the Red Sea raises concerns, with Houthi militants continuing to attack U.S. forces, while the U.S. exercises caution to avoid conflict with Iran. The controversy surrounding India's naval deployment stems from the fact that Houthi militants have not conducted attacks at sea but have launched missiles from land. Some argue that India's actions lack practical significance, as they do not directly address the threat from Houthi militants at sea. This highlights the multifaceted crisis and complex situation in the Red Sea, for which the international community has yet to find an effective solution. News Report 4. According to France 24, Hamas leader Haniyeh traveled to Egypt on February 1 for discussions with the director of the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, Burns, as well as officials from Egypt and Qatar, to negotiate a new ceasefire agreement. Last weekend, these officials convened in Paris and formulated a new ceasefire agreement consisting of 3 phases. The first phase of the new ceasefire agreement involves a 6-week period, during which Israel will release 200 to 300 Palestinian prisoners in exchange for Hamas releasing 35 to 40 Israeli hostages, mainly encompassing women, minors, and the elderly. During this period, Israel will also permit the daily transportation of essential goods to Gaza and ensure the normal operation of hospitals, water supply points, and bakeries in Gaza. In the third phase of the ceasefire, Hamas will release Israeli male soldiers and hand over deceased individuals. As reported by the Wall Street Journal, U.S. and Arab officials indicate that this ceasefire agreement is expected to temporarily halt the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, ease Israel's military offensive, and pave the way for a more extended truce. Meanwhile, the Israeli military conducted airstrikes in the northern and southern parts of Gaza between January 30 and January 31, killing 15 Hamas militants in ground operations. News Report 5. Bloomberg and market research firm Morning Consult conducted a public opinion survey on the presidential elections in 7 key swing states in the United States. These states play a crucial role in determining the overall outcome of the elections. The results, released on January 31, show that President Biden has a 42% approval rating, while former President Trump has a 48% approval rating, leaving Biden trailing by 6 percentage points. The survey reveals that Biden's declining approval is primarily attributed to concerns over inflation and immigration. 51% of voters trust Trump's economic policies, while only 33% trust Biden's economic policies. In terms of immigration policy, 52% of voters trust Trump, while only 30% trust Biden. However, the survey also notes that the 4 criminal investigations against Trump could be a variable in the elections, as 53% of voters state they would not vote for him if he is convicted in any of these cases. The 7 swing states include Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. The survey interviewed 4,956 registered voters in these states from January 16 to January 22, with a margin of error of plus or minus 1 percentage point. In addition, a Reuters and EPSO poll released on January 31 indicates that President Biden's job approval rating for January has dropped to 38%, a 2-point decrease from December. The decline is mainly attributed to concerns among Americans about the economy and immigration. The survey also shows that 22% of voters are still grappling with the challenges posed by inflation and pandemic-related difficulties, with 17% considering immigration the most important issue. 67% believe the United States is on the wrong track. The poll was conducted from January 26 to 28, interviewing 1,019 U.S. adults, with a margin of error of plus or minus 3.3%. News Report 6. On January 31, U.S. President Biden appointed Podesta as the U.S. Special Envoy for Climate, succeeding the outgoing Kerry. Podesta, aged 75, has held significant roles in 3 Democratic administrations, serving as White House Chief of Staff under President Clinton, an advisor to President Obama, and chair of Hillary's campaign committee. Currently overseeing the implementation of Biden's Inflation Reduction Bill, which allocates billions of dollars to energy and climate-related projects, Podesta will continue to support Biden's re-election campaign informally after Kerry steps down. News Report 7. On February 1, the Housing Provident Fund Management Center of Nanjing announced a new policy allowing Nanjing residents to use Housing Provident Fund loans to purchase foreclosed homes. This policy applies to residential properties auctioned by courts at all levels in Nanjing, requiring buyers to pay a 20% down payment. Upon approval, the center will request banks to provide the loan. Data from the China Index Research Institute shows that in December of the previous year, Nanjing's second-hand housing transactions reached 6,900 units, a 40% year-on-year increase but a 20% decrease month-on-month. The average price per square meter was 33,000 yen, a 5.3% year-on-year decrease and a 0.85% decrease month-on-month. This policy aims to address the large number of foreclosed homes in Nanjing. News Report 8. According to Guizhou Daily, the National People's Congress delegation of the military stationed in Beijing conducted a military inspection tour in Guiyang on January 29. A key member of this delegation is Major General Zhu Jiansheng, the commander of the PLA Strategic Support Force. The delegation held a symposium in Guiyang, where Zhu Jiansheng was a prominent participant. Zhu Jiansheng, aged 61, previously served as the Deputy Minister of the General Staff and the Technical Reconnaissance Department of the General Staff. He later assumed the position of the third commander of the Strategic Support Force. Zhu Jiansheng made a public appearance at the symposium, marking his first public appearance in nearly 6 months. Previously, there were reports suggesting his disappearance due to alleged military corruption. He was absent from the National Defense Department's reception on the 96th anniversary of the founding of the military on July 31 last year and did not attend the award ceremony for astronauts in September. Established in the 2016 military reform, the Strategic Support Force is responsible for intelligence support, technical reconnaissance, electronic warfare, cyber public space liaison, and psychological warfare in 5 major areas. Zhu Jiansheng oversees 2 crucial departments under the Strategic Support Force, namely the Network Systems Department and the Aerospace Systems Department. This force is considered a major source of China's hackers, covering areas such as cyber attacks and electronic warfare. News Report 9. Radio Free Asia reported that on February 1, Taiwan's immigration agency deported 3 Chinese citizens, Tian Yongda, Wei Yani, and their son Huang Xingxing, to Malaysia. These individuals had flown from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, to Taiwan on January 30 and chose to jump off the plane upon arrival, citing fears of potential political persecution upon return to China. They requested temporary refuge in Taiwan while waiting for asylum in a third country. The Taiwan Immigration Agency stated that these 3 Chinese citizens did not have visas to enter Taiwan and, according to international conventions, were deported to their departure location. Taiwanese media compared these 3 individuals to the Chinese dissident Chen Siming, who was stranded at Taoyuan Airport last year. Chen Siming eventually traveled to Canada without being deported. The spokesman for the Taiwan Advocacy Foundation, Zhang Jihong, stated that Chen Siming had gone through some procedures with Canada during his stay in Taiwan, allowing him to wait in Taiwan. After being deported to Malaysia, Tian Yongda, Wei Yani, and Huang Xingxing may face the risk of being sent back to China, where they could potentially face imprisonment. Shi Yixiang of the Taiwan Association for Human Rights pointed out that Taiwan currently lacks refugee laws and relevant processing procedures for cases involving crises such as war or political persecution. He urged Taiwan to legislate promptly to protect such individuals, emphasizing that global support for Taiwan maintaining the status quo is crucial, and Taiwan should also help others to uphold its own existence. News Report 10. According to reports, on the night of January 31 at 9 p.m., a massive fire broke out at the fine chemical factory of Ningxia Baofeng Energy Group Company, Limited. The fire was so intense that it formed a mushroom cloud of fire, creating scenes reminiscent of doomsday. Local residents captured videos of the fire using their car dashcams. The videos show vehicles driving on the road suddenly illuminated by red light, a massive fireball exploding in the sky, forming a mushroom cloud, followed by thick smoke rising into the sky, and sparks scattering. Established in 2005, Ningxia Baofeng Energy Group Company, Limited primarily produces coal chemical products used in chemical plants. According to the Emergency Management Bureau of Ningxia on February 1, the fire was extinguished within half an hour of ignition, and an investigation into the cause of the fire is currently underway. 2 people were injured in the fire. News Report 11. Bloomberg reports that a report released by Statistics Canada on January 31 reveals that Canada's gross domestic product, GDP, grew by 1.5% last year, exceeding the Bank of Canada's expected 1%. Despite the impact of rising borrowing costs affecting consumer spending and business investment, causing a slowdown in the growth rate of the Canadian economy over the past year, there are currently no signs of an economic recession. Both the Central Bank of Canada and private sector economists anticipate that the Canadian economy will maintain a sluggish growth in the first half of this year and then experience a rebound in the second half. However, looking at the situation at the end of last year, Canada's economic performance is better than expected. Therefore, the market expects the Bank of Canada to possibly make the first interest rate cut in June this year to stimulate economic recovery. As of now, the Bank of Canada's interest rate is 5%, reaching its highest level since 2001.